Hi everybody. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate how to set up, submit, and test your first assignment using GitHub Classroom. The basic idea is that I'm going to put starter code and other files you need into a Git repository and provide a link that you can use to clone that repo. Then you'll do your work in that repo and then submit it by doing a git commit and a git push. The purpose of using GitHub Classroom, as opposed to just plain Git, is that Classroom provides some tools that help me organize and manage all of the repositories that get created over the course of the semester. For example, using the link I provide to clone the repo automatically gives me access to your repo and automatically generates a list of all the repositories that have been created. I'm assuming that you already have a GitHub account and that you set up a public-private key pair so that you can interact with GitHub without having to put in your password all the time. If not, pause the video and take care of that. I do have a separate video showing how to set up the key pair. I'll put a link to that in the description below. We'll begin by going to my website and then the CIS 351 website. You do have at least one of these bookmarked, right? Okay, and then we'll go down to the assignment. In this case, Lab 1. Any assignment that uses GitHub Classroom will state that clearly. And as you start to read the instructions, one of the first ones will say something like, follow this GitHub Classroom link to set up your repo, which we see right here. So when you follow that link, if you're not logged into GitHub, the first thing it'll do is ask you to log into GitHub. And then if you haven't used GitHub Classroom before, GitHub is going to ask your permission to interact with that separate application. So you just click on the green Authorize button down here. And then this is what you'll see to actually accept the assignment. Once you set up GitHub Classroom, clicking the invitation link in an assignment will bring you right to this screen. So I say accept the assignment, and now in the background it's going to clone that repo and set it up for you. That does take a few seconds. And so take a slow count to 5, refresh the page, and you'll see the URL for that new repo. Follow that URL, and now this should look familiar. It's just a standard GitHub page with the starter code in it. And so the next thing you need to do is clone this repo so you can work with it locally on your machine or EOS or wherever you're working. So you go to the green code button, and I encourage you to use the public-private key pair and this SSH link rather than the HTTPS link, but I guess that's up to you. So I'm going to copy this into my clipboard and then go over to the terminal and clone the repo. So when you clone the repo, you get a new folder. And again, we see the files we need to do the assignment. So just for this first lab, it's pretty simple. It's just to finish that simulated circuit. So I will launch JLS. That command JLS only works if you set up the path. So make sure you've seen those instructions. All right, so there's your starting point. Not much there. Just to keep things quick, and so I'm not doing the assignment for you, I'll just make a simple change here. Obviously, this won't get the job done, but it sort of demonstrates how things work. And then the next thing you want to do is to run your own tests on that. So I'll compile the test file, and then I'll run the tests. And of course, there's some failures. There's going to be failures because I didn't complete the assignment. Now, normally at this point, what you'd do is you'd go back and you'd fix your circuit till all your tests pass. But just for demonstration purposes here, I'm going to submit it. And remember, submitting it is just a git add, git commit, and git push. So now your changes are back in the repo. I have access to the repo, so I can look at it, I can grade it, I can answer questions if you have questions. So let's see what that looks like over here. I'll do a refresh, and we can see that the commit is there. Now, the other thing that I'm using Git for is to run some automated tests. In theory, once your circuit passes your test, you know it's bug-free. However, because you're still learning, it's certainly possible that you've overlooked a test case or two. So, to double check that your circuit is really bug-free, we're going to use a GitHub feature called Actions to run my tests against your circuit. And that's done here in the Actions tab. So after clicking the Actions tab, look in that leftmost column. You'll see that blue box that says All Workflows, and then right below that is an unhighlighted line that says GitHub Classroom Workflow. Click on that. And now look over to the right, and you'll see this drop down that says Run Workflow. Now I'm going to assume that all of your submissions are on the master branch. So you shouldn't have to change this, but if you have code on a different branch you want to test, you could change that here. But anyway, after selecting the branch you want to test, you just click on Run Workflow. Now this does take a couple of seconds to set up, but after 5 to 10 seconds or so, you should see that yellow dot. You should see your test being set up. And then that dot will have a little circle going around it, which means the tests are running. And when the tests are done, you'll either get the red X or a green check. Of course, in this case, there's a red X. We know that the circuit isn't done yet. All right, for demonstration purposes, let's go back here and fix the circuit. So I don't want to do the lab for you, so I will fix the circuit by just copying it in from another location. So now when I run my tests, they should all pass because I copied in a known correct answer. But let's pretend you actually fix the circuit, then you just submit it again. So another git add, git commit. Oops, forgot the M. Git commit and git push. So we can go back to the web page. If we look at the code here, we'll see that that additional commit arrived. And so again, we want to make sure that it passes all of my tests, not just your tests. So GitHub Classroom workflow, master branch, run the workflow. We can see that it's getting set up and now it's running. And it passed. So when you see that green check, it means it passed my tests. Okay, so now that we know that it works, you need to signal me that it's ready to be graded. Now, for the most part, what I'm looking for is a commit message with the phrase grade me in it. So here's what we can do. We just need to make a small change to a file. We can do something like this. I'll open the Java file and just make some dumb little change so that Git has something to commit. We'll do a git add. I'll say grade me. Now this doesn't have to be the entire contents of that commit message. You just need that grade me message in there somewhere and a git push. So now when I'm looking at your code, I can see quickly at a glance that you're ready for me to look at it. I do want to show you one other thing quickly. There is a shortcut for launching the automated tests if you don't want to have to go through the website. This is something I add to the repos, so you're not going to get this with every GitHub Classroom assignment, just if I put it there. But if you create a tag that starts with the phrase check me, notice the capitalization, so like check me 1, check me 2, or whatever, and then push that tag, the presence of that check me tag will also cause the test to be launched. So if I do a reload here, we can see that there's now one tag. And if I go over to the Actions tab, you can see that the tests have been launched automatically. So there are two ways to do it. If you don't mind going through the web, that's fine. If you want to be able to do it from the command line for some reason, you just do it by adding a tag that starts with the phrase check me. Please do be gentle on the autograder. We only get so many minutes per month, so every time you run a set of tests, it does consume that limited shared resource. If you're doing your job right in thinking carefully about your tests and writing your tests thoroughly, you should only have to be running the autograder 1, 2, maybe 3 times per assignment. I don't want to set a hard cap or a hard rule on this, but I will if I see the assignments coming in that have run the autograder dozens of times. Okay, so that should help you get started using GitHub Classroom. Remember, for the most part, it's just using Git. The Classroom part is that link to get your repo, and all the other Classroom stuff, by and large, is on my end to help me do my job. In case you didn't know, the automated testing stuff, the GitHub Actions, is a standard GitHub feature. It's not a GitHub Classroom feature. So you can set up automated tests on any of your projects. They don't have to be something I do for you as part of an assignment. If you're working on an assignment in Git in a different class and you want to automate some things, testing or something else, look into GitHub Actions. They're pretty powerful and you can do some neat stuff there. All right, let me know if you have any questions and enjoy the lab.